All right, everybody, welcome to Play the Dragon, History of Dragon Ball Video Games, Volume 1, the first saga. We are covering all the games from 1986 to 1997. And how many of you were born around that time or after? All right, yeah, we got it. We got some people in my age group, thankfully. I mean, I'm an 80s kid myself. So anyway, all right. So an introduction, my name is Ryan Molina, and I used to go by the name Castor Troy. I was the webmaster of two popular Dragon Ball Z websites, Vegeta Insane and Ginga Giri Giri, from 1999 to 2002, and I'm one of the old school Dragon Ball Z webmasters, and it's been 20 years, hasn't it? Wow, like 2019 to 1999. Now both sites are online again at VegetaInsane.com and Ginga Giri Giri Kai at 3gkai.com. And I used to be an anime music video creator from 1999 to 2012. I made over 80 AMVs. I participated in Project Doom Rider in 2005 with the Namek and Android Saga tracks. You know, I've won the Best of Show at Anime Central, SakuraCon, Otakon, Anime Expo, and more. And I am the creator of the Naruto Ball Z AMV series, available on YouTube, 3gkai, and VegetaInsane.com.
The slides aren't there and working.
Oh, they're not working?
No, it's still the first.
Okay, hold on. Oh, man, this is gonna...
You want to close the door?
I think the...
Want to close it?
Yeah, it's probably a good idea, thanks. All right, we are having some technical difficulties. I apologize, folks. Yeah, I thought the slides were showing, actually.
Just the first one. First might be showing.
Okay, how about now?
Your mouse just went by and just for a split second.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to see from this side.
You're probably on a different screen.
Yeah, it's probably split.
You're probably not mirrors. You're probably not set up a mirror.
Oh, okay. Oh, now let me... Okay, sorry for technical difficulties, folks. Display settings real quick. I think I'll just have it clone my display. Sorry about that. All right, how's this? Okay, well, there we go. Thank you, everybody, for letting me know, because it's a little bit hard to... Okay, well, I already did this part. I know I did this part. All right, and I also do make a special appearance on the Dragon Ball Z Resurrection F Blu-rays. I appear on both the Japanese version and the US version, so huge thanks to Toei and Funimation for this. I don't get paid for any of it. I had to sign a waiver, though, so, all that legal mumbo-jumbo. So if any of you brought Dragon Ball Z Resurrection F Blu-rays, I'll totally sign them for you, but I don't think my signature is worth anything. And nowadays I run Battle Geek Plus, which is my YouTube channel where I do video game reviews, sketch comedy, and more. I've reviewed several of the Dragon Ball video games on my awesome video game memory series, and Battle Geek Plus is also my film production and book publishing company. I've reviewed several of the Dragon Ball video games already, so you can go to battlegeekplus.com, youtube.com/battlegeekplus, or amazon.v/battlegeekplus. Now, here, the nitty-gritty Dragon Ball video games. But where's this picture from? I'll show you here. I wish that last frame was longer. Don't you guys agree?
Yes.
Yeah, he didn't finish his whole.
Well, but I have it immortalized right here. Okay.
And the look on Vegeta's face.
Yeah. All right. Anyways, guys, we're beginning part 1, the Famicom Era from 1986 to 1993. I have a presentation for you, so let us begin that. It's a instrumental I got off YouTube. I forgot who did it, but I will totally message you
So
it.
it's not from a video game.
Oh no, it's not from any video games. All right, so birth of the Dragon Ball video games. So Dragon Ball video games on home I guess someone needs to answer their phone. Okay, so Dragon Ball video games on home consoles began with the mystery of Shenlong, what I consider a very mediocre Zelda 1 and 2 clone. So imagine playing Zelda 1 and 2 with Dragon Ball characters, but the game really sucks.
How can it?
And it was also released in the USA as Dragon Power in 1988 because Bandai wanted to make a cheap buck and change the current Japanese assets for American audiences. And we do have some version differences. You know, Goku's hair was cut to make him look more like Sun Wukong from Journey to the West, and Master Roshi became Turtle Hermit and likes sandwiches rather than panties, because, you know, for kids. And this is what I feel Dragon Power represents in the United States. Sandwiches. Got some Subway and your Jimmy John's. And, you know, Bulma is wearing her full clothes. So, and we also have more version differences. You know, Goku's name was actually kept in Dragon Power, but everybody else got name changes. So Bulma is Nora, Master Roshi is Turtle Hermit, Yamcha is Lancer, Oolong is Pudgy, the Kamehameha is the Wind Wave, the Dragon Balls are the Crystal Balls, and, you know, maybe Yamcha is cooler with the Lance. What do you think? Hey guys, I got this. Dragon Power rules. The Lance did nothing! I'm so... Yeah, rocky start, wasn't it? So, ironically, both the Mystery of Shenlong and Dragon Power sold well enough, but they definitely left a bad taste in gamers' mouths. Bandai was definitely very well aware of this and decided to change things around a bit. Did they succeed? And the card-based RPGs began. So, the original Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z series were made into card RPGs, where you traveled on a world map, which is either board or grid-based, and during combat you selected cards to attack, defend, use items, etc., and choosing the right cards was the key to winning the game. And I do have a commercial for you for the first Dragon Ball Z game on the Famicom right here.
最強の敵を倒すため悟空もさらにパワーアップした迫力の 3D バトルに最新の必殺技も登場してドラゴンボール Z 強襲サイヤ人
I still think that Puppet Dragon looks better than the one in Dragon Ball Evolution.
Best commercials back then.
Right? And Goku, you must believe in the heart of the cards. Your pal, Yugi. So did the card-based RPGs save the games? Well, I personally think a few of the card RPGs were quite good and a massive improvement over The Legend of Shenlong and Dragon Power. But while the card RPGs are text-heavy, they did a really good job of representing the series in 8-bit form, and they covered their respective sagas quite well. I do prefer certain card RPGs over some of the others, but they're overall solid RPG games and should be enough for you to get enjoyment out of them. And they're super cheap on eBay if you want the cards in complete boxes, so don't buy the ones in the dealer's room because they're overpricing them. And the Dragon Ball Z RPG, the Dragon Ball RPG Foundation. So the first thing that most Dragon Ball fans think of the games are the fighting games. But however, these games set the foundation of the world of Dragon Ball can open itself to the world of RPGs. We all know that Dragon Ball has so many diverse worlds in its universes and many locations just on its planet Earth alone. And these concepts would be further explored in the legacy of Goku 1 and 2 for the Game Boy Advance, Attack of the Saiyans on the DS, and the upcoming Project Z action RPG, which I'm really excited for. And we also get super crossover events. So far before Jump Force, you know, the game they're playing downstairs. How many of you have played Jump Force? Yeah, you're better off. I mean, I just reviewed the game, so I did all the hard work for you. I'm sorry. Okay, so Goku appeared in the crossover RPG games Famicom Jump 1 and 2. These games involved many characters from many Jump properties like Dragon Ball, Fist of the North Star, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and many more to stop evil from taking over the Jump world. And I personally think the first Famicom Jump is a bit of a mediocre game, and with a ton of problems like lag and very clunky gameplay because your character, who's not any of the Jump characters, it's just some random fan, he moves and fights like a turtle, but not exactly a Ninja Turtle, so he's like, So Famicom Jump 2 is a much more improved sequel with slightly better gameplay, and you move as a slightly faster turtle, so you're like, ugh. And you actually get to control Goku right off the bat. He's like the first character that you can get to control. So think of Famicom Jump 2 like playing Goku in Dragon Quest, but not actually as good. And we have an original story, Dragon Ball Z, Plan to Eradicate the Saiyans. It's not based on any of the actual anime or manga material, and I do consider this game to be the best one of the card RPGs because it pushed the limits of the Famicom to really show Dragon Ball Z represented in 8-bit form. I mean, you see all this detail on Piccolo right here. And the story of Dragon Ball Z Plan to Eradicate the Saiyans is a member of the Sulfurians, who you know as the Tuffles in the English dub, named Dr. Lychee, bears a hatred for the Saiyans who took over Planet Plant and turned it into Planet Vegeta. He was killed in the battle against the Saiyans, and he lives on in his ghost form, which is shown here. Ooh. And he wants to enact his revenge. He sends death-strong gas all around planet Earth, which takes away our heroes' powers. But what's worse is old foes like Frieza, Lord Slug, Turles and Cooler return, and can Goku and his friends defeat these foes and stop the evil Dr. Lychee from getting his revenge on the Saiyans? Well, play a story that transcends not only the manga and anime, but through Earth and space. And also, this game proved to be so popular among the fans that it was readapted for the Bandai Playdia, which I will cover a little later, and reanimated for Dragon Ball Raging Blast 2. And we have actually a fighting game on the Famicom called Dragon Ball Z Clash, the Tournament Under the Heavens, which required a Datac barcode scanner and cards to choose characters. Now, I do own this game, but I have not played it on Twitch for these reasons. Personally, I find it very mediocre, and it's hindered by the technical limitations of the Famicom, so don't expect any in-depth fighting mechanics. It's 2-player only, so you'll have to convince a friend to come over and play, and I haven't been able to do that yet. And in all honesty, I think this game will just make your friend leave your house. But however, though, the cards are kind of cool, and scanning them inside the barcode battler is nice, and that's the best part of the game, so I think the cards are cool, bro. So the Famicom Era in review. So the Famicom Era got to a really rough start with the really poor Dragon Ball Mystery of Shenlong / Dragon Power, and very slowly began to recover with the advent of the card RPGs. While I don't consider any of the card RPG games to be complete masterpieces, they're definitely worth playing and did capture the look and feel of the series in 8-bit form. These games would lay the foundation for future generation of games to come. And now let us begin with the Super Famicom / Game Boy / Arcade era. And we all know this picture pretty well. Yeah. All right, hold on. Got another presentation for you. So, the Dragon Ball Z fighting game craze begins, capitalizing on the fighting game craze of the early 90s, something Combat Mortals or Fighting on the Roads or something like that. Dragon Ball Z finally has its own dedicated fighting game series with Super Butoden. And I got a fun fact for you guys. Akira Toriyama himself could not pull off the moves in Dragon Ball Z Super Butoden. I am not kidding. So the fabled creator of the Dragon Ball series and an avid gamer himself could not pull off the moves. So there was a recent article that was going around, I think a year ago on, Kanzenshu, saying Toriyama had so much trouble doing the moves that the producer of the game had to film himself doing the moves on a Super Famicom controller. And if you've actually played the game, you'd understand how difficult it was to actually control, especially if you pre-order Dragon Ball FighterZ on the Switch. You actually get a copy of Super Butoden 1 for free, and it's very hard to control. Yeah. Oh yeah, I know they changed the music in the Switch version because of the whole Kenji Yamamoto scandal. So the Dragon Ball Super Butoden series, it had a rocky start, but greatly improved with the sequels. I consider Dragon Ball Z Super Butoden 2 to be a great entry point for beginners, and Dragon Ball Z Super Butoden 3 has even better gameplay, although it lacks a proper arcade mode. Fun with your friends, but not so much by yourself. And we got Dragon Ball Z on SEGA. So the only Dragon Ball Z game to come out for the Sega Mega Drive, aka the Genesis here in the US, Dragon Ball Z Buyu Retsuden. I personally consider this to be a poor man's Super Butoden, just like many of the Sega versus Super Nintendo comparisons, because it has watered-down gameplay and watered-down graphics, and the voices sound like they're being yelled from a kazoo, so you're going to hear, Kamehameha. I'm not kidding. So I recommend just playing the Super Butoden games instead. And Dragon Ball Z Hyper Dimension. And I got a badass commercial to show you guys. All right, let me just play it here for you.
Hyper Graphic Multi Battle System 搭載 Super Famicom Dragon Ball Z Hyper Dimension 3月29日
Awesome. That is a great one. All right, the Super Famicom Dragon Ball Z era ends with a bang in 1996 with the excellent Dragon Ball Z Hyper Dimension. Taking inspiration from Mortal Kombat 3, Dragon Ball Z Hyper Dimension has a new realistic look and much faster, much more hard-hitting gameplay to the point where you can knock another fighter into another stage. And with incredibly solid gameplay all around, this game is sure to send you to the next dimension. And the 16-bit Dragon Ball Z RPGs. So the RPGs did continue on the 16-bit systems with Dragon Ball Z Legend of the Super Saiyan and the Dragon Ball Z Super Gokuden series for the Super Famicom. These were more standard RPGs, but the fighting games were mostly the focus of the 16-bit era. And Legend of the Super Saiyan was the final incarnation of the card RPG games with just better graphics and sound, while the Super Gokuden series was a mix of RPG elements, trivia, and reaction-based combat. And depending what you choose here in the trivia in the Super Gokuden games, you can completely follow the story, or you can actually deviate from the Dragon Ball saga, which affects how you progress through the game. And we also got Dragon Ball Z in arcades. So 2 regular Dragon Ball Z games, just one was just called regular Dragon Ball Z, and Dragon Ball Z 2 Super Battle were released in 1993 and 1995. I personally found the first Dragon Ball Z arcade game to be super mediocre, while the second one's a bit of a slight improvement. And then we got Dragon Ball Z VR Versus. So released in 1994, it was an original Punch-Out-like game with Majin Ozoto, who's now in Dragon Ball Heroes. And if you can get this game working on an emulator or see it in an arcade, I highly recommend playing it since it's a really fun game. And we got Dragon Ball Z on the Game Boy. So 2 specific games, Goku Hishoden and Goku Gekitoden, came out on the Game Boy and were a unique mix of RPG and mini games on the go. So one of the mini games is you can have Goku run on the Serpent Road or blast Namekian frogs for fun. These were kind of technically mobile games before smartphones because of their mini-game nature. So the Super Famicom era in review. So the Super Famicom era was a massive quantum leap over the Famicom era. We had a bit of a rough start with the first Super Butoden game, but the Super Butoden sequels, Hyper Dimension, and the Super Gokuden RPG series were all solid games, which were worthy of praise, and I would highly recommend getting several of these games for your collection, like Super Butoden 2 and 3, Hyper Dimension, and the Super Gokuden games. And the arcade era in review, so I do gotta admit, after the excellent fighting games on the Super Famicom, the arcade games were a bit of a letdown. Although I have to say it's worth your time to seek out Dragon Ball Z VR Versus because there's no other Dragon Ball Z game like it. It may be hard to get working on an emulator like MAME, but if you can get it working, you're definitely in for a fun treat. And the Game Boy Era in review, so just like Dragon Ball Legends and Dokkan Battle on your phone, the Dragon Ball Z games on the Game Boy were actually pretty addictive in their own right, especially the fun mini-games. Although both of these games are a bit on the expensive side, but you should be able to afford these if you can put, like money down in Dokkan Battle. And now let's go to the disc games era from 1994 to 1997. I have a presentation again for you.
Strong. This should be a good fight.
I love you, Steve Bloom, but you're not Goku. I like a better Spike. All right, anyways. Oh, and what is Krillin playing? Let's find out here. Oops.
クリリンさん、一体どこまで強くなるんですか？
まだまだですよ。むふ。
鍛えて戦士を強くしろ。キャラクター成長システム搭載。プレイステーションドラゴンボール Z アルティメットバトル22。
I just love how that commercial makes the game better than it actually is. All right. So Dragon Ball Z games on CD-ROM. So as the era of cartridges was coming to an end, Dragon Ball Z video games started taking advantage of the CD-ROM format with increased space than CD quality audio. Several games took advantage of the CD-ROM format to show original animated videos done by Toei Animation themselves. Only available on these games, and I shall show you the Ultimate Battle 22 intro, which is really awesome, by the way. Whoa. Gogeta. So anyways, the Dragon Ball Z simulator. So this era was the birth of the Dragon Ball Z simulator, games that couldn't exactly be defined as action or fighting games, but a genre of their own. And I know a lot of you think that Legends started it, but they actually started with The Legend of Son Goku for the PC Engine, and then was expanded upon in Dragon Ball Z Legends for the PlayStation and Saturn. And I do want to get a raise of hands. How many of you have played Dragon Ball Z Legends for the Saturn or the PlayStation? Nice. Yeah, okay, awesome. So anyways, let us begin with Dragon Ball Z, The Legend of Son Goku. So Dragon Ball Z, The Legend of Son Goku was released on the PC Engine CD in 1994 and is considered the first Dragon Ball Z simulator and the predecessor to Dragon Ball Z Legends. So the gameplay is much different than any Dragon Ball Z game before it because you press left to get away and press right to head towards your opponent. You can press the attack buttons to build up the power balance meter at the bottom, but once you build up the power balance in your favor, you can choose between a different variety of attacks to drain your opponent's life. Now, the CPU in this game is very, very notoriously difficult. Okay. No worries, dude, no worries. It's notoriously difficult, so each of the battles can last anywhere from half an hour to an hour. So you are getting your bang for you are getting the bang for your buck for this game. Although the fights are only one-on-one only, since you're only controlling Goku versus his greatest opponents. And this idea was definitely simplified in Dragon Ball Z Legends for the PlayStation and the Saturn. Alright guys, the nitty-gritty. Dragon Ball Z Legends are known by its full name. The greatest Dragon Ball legend is considered one of the best Dragon Ball fighting games ever released due to its faithfulness in retelling the entire Dragon Ball Z story and the 3-on-3 gameplay. So this game was actually Marvel vs. Capcom and Dragon Ball FighterZ even before those games existed. And even though the battles are 3-on-3, the gameplay was simplified from The Legend of Son Goku by letting you change and swap out your characters. There's much easier hit detection to raise the power balance, and more skill was involved, having to balance between being offensive and defensive because you always needed to charge your key meter over here. And once you get the power balance in your favor, you do one of the character's signature attacks to drain your opponent's life. And both the PlayStation and the Sega Saturn versions are both excellent, with some slight differences, like the Saturn version having a little more graphical detail, but the actual gameplay is a lot harder, while the PlayStation one is a lot easier. But nevertheless, I do recommend getting either version of the game, and I do own both versions, and they're both great. And we also now have planned to eradicate the Saiyans, the original animation. It was remade based on the original Famicom RPG. It was remade on the Bandai Playdia in 1994, which was a console for educational games and interactive movie games, which sold very poorly. So the gameplay was made a lot more like Dragon's Lair and Space Ace, where you see a control prompt over here, so you can choose the corresponding button to attack, dodge, fire a key blast at certain points. But there's very little gameplay, and you're spending more time watching the game rather than actually playing it. And both of the games can be finished in less than an hour or 30 minutes. And like I mentioned before, these were both the basis for the reanimated version for Dragon Ball Raging Blast 2. And I actually bought these games pretty recently, so I spent my tax return this year to actually purchase both of the Plan to Eradicate the Saiyans games and an actual Playdia console. And I played through both of these games on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/BattleGeek+. And I completed filming my review of these games, which is the screenshot here. And I will have that review up on BattleGeek+ YouTube channel very soon. So when people ask me what they spent their tax returns on, a lot of people will probably say, oh, I bought a new car, I paid for my mortgage, or I did some investments. I just tell them, oh, I bought some Dragon Ball Z Playdia games and the console itself. And if you want to know, these games are very expensive. So let me see here. So for this disc, which is the Earth disc, I paid about $60, and I was very lucky to win that auction because it normally goes for $100. Paid $120 for this one, and paid about $200 for the Playdia system. I don't recommend doing it because you're going to be watching these games more than you're actually going to be playing them. And now the CD fighting games. So I gotta admit, a lot of the CD games that came out were average to mediocre. We got Ultimate Battle 22, which actually did come out here in the US in 2003, and you can buy it on eBay for like $10. But I think that's about $10 too much. And there's Dragon Ball Z Shin Butoden for the Saturn, and Dragon Ball Final Bout, not GT yet, and I do have another commercial to show you. I love how that commercial makes the game look a little more epic than it actually is, because it's not. And so both of these games had...
For the intro.
Yeah, the intro. Oh, the intro's great. So I agree, Victor. So anyways, both of these games had a build-up mode where you get to train your characters, build up their stats, and swap game saves via memory cards with your friend to see whose character is more powerful. But in all honesty, I don't think any sane person is going to spend hours in build-up mode. You did? Oh, wait. Let me ask you something then. Did you upload your save to GameFAQs?
No, I didn't.
Oh.
At that time, I wasn't on long ago. I was playing. Just me and my friend playing Vegeta and Butoden up.
Oh, okay. Oh my God. Okay. Okay, sir. I admit you're insane, but hey, more power to you, dude. But before we get into the final game, I don't want to talk about yet. So Dragon Ball Z Shin Butoden for the Saturn had a Mr. Satan mode, and I know Chris Rager and Josh Martin are having their panel like right across the way. I wish that they were able to see this, but anyways. So Mr. Satan mode is a very special mode, only unique to Dragon Ball Z Shin Butoden on the Sega Saturn. The plot involves Mr. Satan trying to pay back his debt to Android 18 from the Tenkaichi Budokai, aka the World Martial Arts Tournament, or else he'll be exposed for the fraud he is and Android 18 will beat him up. So can Mr. Satan pay back Android 18, or will he lose his reputation? So Mr. Satan must try to win money on fights taking place at the Jaguar Dome, run by Lord Jaguar, one of the villains from Dragon Ball Z Movie 11, Bio Broly, which we all love, right? We love Bio Broly.
I enjoyed it.
The new one was better.
Yeah, the new one was definitely a lot better. So anyways, Mr. Satan can choose a variety of gag weapons like bananas, guns, potions, and explosives to sabotage the fights, and he can bet on a certain amount of zenny on the fighter of his choosing. So you actually control Mr. Satan in the background right here in the center, and you get to toss all of your weapons to mess up the other fighter, so they got a better chance of winning. But be careful not to accidentally harm the fighter you're actually betting on, because the weapons will hurt either fighter. So if you win, profit. If you lose, humiliation and a beatdown. So if you win, Mr. Satan pays back Android 18 and gets to relax with Majin Buu for a funny ending. But if you lose, Mr. Satan is humiliated and gets beat by Android 18. Luckily, you only need to raise 10,000 zenny in this game rather than the 10 million in the actual series, because I don't think you can even build up to 10 million in this game. I've tried, believe me. All right, guys, the game you all love, Dragon Ball GT Final Bout. So it had a limited USA release in 1997 in order to capitalize on Dragon Ball Z's first run on syndication with only 10,000 copies made. Prices on eBay in 1999 to 2000 were over $250 plus. And the voice acting is done mostly by the Bang Zoom group, so you get to hear Steve Blum as Goku and Lex Lang as Gohan. And it was re-released in 2004 with a new cover, but the exact same game. I have no idea why Funimation didn't redub it, but I'm pretty sure Chris Sabat and Sean Schemmel don't want their name on this game at all. And now, the Final Bout intro comparison. So the Japanese version had a vocal song, The Biggest Fight, by series veteran Kageyama Hironobu, while the USA version had a generic sounding music track. So let's play both to see which one is the better one. Ooh.
It sounded like something that would have been on SWAT Cats, not Dragon.
Yeah, I agree, dude. Well, isn't the coolest thing when Cell turns his head in the Japanese intro? Isn't that the most badass thing?
That was cool.
Oh man, so final bout. Where did it go wrong, everybody? So while there are many speculations, it's apparent that the production of Dragon Ball GT Final Bout was plagued with problems. Around 1997, the ratings for Dragon Ball GT were falling in Japan, and Bandai realized their Dragon Ball video game cash cow was in jeopardy. Oh my god, we can't make any more Dragon Ball games. What are we going to do? It was obvious that production was rushed to meet a summer of 1997 deadline. But sadly, Dragon Ball GT would end in November of 1997. But had Dragon Ball GT gone on longer, then I feel the game could have been more polished up like Tekken and Toe Ball, since there was no excuse to have a bad fighting game on the PlayStation. And honestly, did Bandai feed its developers hot dogs during the production of this game? Because, I mean, look at Super Saiyan 4 Goku's tail. It looks like a string of hot dogs coming out. Don't you guys agree? So, final verdict of Dragon Ball GT Final Bout. Our good friend Topo says, trash belongs in the trash bin, was it? All right then, guys, we are kind of almost out of time here. So the disc-based era in review, I have to say that the best games to come out on the disc-based era were the Dragon Ball Z simulators, like The Legend of Son Goku and Dragon Ball Z Legends. These games introduced something new and unique to the Dragon Ball video game universe rather than rehashing the fighting games. But sadly, the actual fighting games like Ultimate Battle 22 and Final Bout were terrible games, and there really wasn't any excuse to have bad fighting games on the CD-based consoles. And sadly, this would be the end of Dragon Ball video games for a short while until 2002, when the series was hitting peak popularity in the USA and having a massive revival in Japan. And also, I've wrote a book about all of this, which is covered in more detail, which is now available on Amazon.com. Play the Dragon History of Dragon Ball Video Games, Volume 1, and I do have a promo to show you guys. Hey, do you love Dragon Ball? Do you like video games? Do you like Dragon Ball video games? Play the Dragon, the History of Dragon Ball Video Games. Volume 1 is a comprehensive guide based on all the Dragon Ball video games from 1986 to 1997, which is everything from Dragon Power to Dragon Ball GT Final Bout. Well, make sure to pick up your copy today by clicking on the link in the description below. And I do have a surprise for one lucky person here in the crowd. So, I do have a copy of the book. So I'm going to choose one random person in the crowd. So raise your hand if you're interested. All right, you know, the guy who spent all his time in build-up mode in Dragon Ball GT Final Bout. You? Congratulations, sir. You are the owner of the book. It's now available on Amazon, so make sure you look for it. Yeah, I mean, sir, you got dedication right there. Yep, it comes with a description of all the games I've covered here in great detail. It has a buyer's guide, so don't go buy it don't buy any games downstairs, because I know the real prices. So anyways, that should be ending the panel for now. You can follow me on Twitter at @RyanMolina or at BattleGeekPlus. You can check me out at battlegeekplus.com, youtube.com/BattleGeekPlus, twitch.tv/BattleGeekPlus, 3gkai.com, or VegetaInsane.com. Thank you everybody for coming, and have a great Kamehacon. Thank you.